but you have the power not to enforce it, don't enforce it and get sued. Get sued. That's the thing. You have a bunch of lawsuits. You've caused a bunch of lawsuits for the city of Wilmington because of your negligence and the negligence of your staff up there.
So you're saying I'm a mob person, or I'm a part of a mob because I'm simply saying I don't want a certain policy? How do y'all take this? How do you all support this?
So they could be hiring anyone they wanted. So this had nothing to do with that bill. So again, your racism is showing.
Good evening, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Today, once again, our colleague is not with us. She's out doing her military duty, and we are very grateful and we honor her for that and her service to our country. I want to start our show off today by talking about something happened last Friday. A man was gunned down in the middle of the day at around 1:30 or 1:40 in 1100 block of Reed Street. I don't even know where that is, but have you heard anything about that or anything else?
So very little information has been given out about this shooting, and it seems to be a trend recently. We don't get too much information, but he did end up passing away later on. He was transported to the hospital in critical condition and then passed. But this isn't something new, right? So we've seen an uptick, especially these last 2-3 months, in gun violence in the city of Wilmington and the number of deaths as well too.
Oh, wow.
And very little details being released back on what is truly going on, where the investigation is, and if they are still following up with some of these cases.
You know, and as you said that, because I've been trying to, just follow the shootings as well as the murders. I don't really want there to be any murders at all. I don't want no shootings at all either. But I just don't understand, how is it in broad daylight? Used to be a time at night things happen. What is going on with our plan and the police department and the community policing and all that other stuff that's supposed to have been working out, where a 36-year-old man is just gunned down? And I'm told that, the information I received is that he was gunned down where the people who did it was not afraid to be seen.
That's because they know there's no ramifications. When you have a police department that has struggled to actually solve a lot of these cases, it leads to the boldness of some of these actions now taking place. And this isn't something that has recently happened over the last year. I would say over this administration, these 7 years, right? You have seen record numbers of gun violence incidents and record lows of them actually solving the cases, even though we have one of the highest police to public per capita ratios on the entire East Coast. It has not helped solve any of the violence that we're seeing in the streets. They may solve one or two, and then you have certain council members who want to throw a parade for them for doing their job and finally solving one out of how many. So I think we need to really hold our elected officials accountable.
Yes.
To make the police do a better job of doing their actual job, which is solving crimes. Now, that also means that we have to reimagine what policing is like. I'll say this, there's a lot of really good police officers out there that are swamped with things that have nothing to do with policing.
Really?
Nothing to do with policing. They have to be nurses, mental health specialists, crisis management specialists, all outside of what their original intention was, which is to help stop the crime.
As I'm listening to you, Coby, I'm really becoming concerned, and I'm feeling the tension that you feel by some of the persons who live in the inner city, the heart of the city of Wilmington, where they're afraid to go outside of their houses. They're afraid to go to the neighborhood store to get a loaf of bread. Have we really reached that point?
I think we have. The fear is very widespread, right? We talk about, oh, this generation doesn't go outside anymore. Well, it's not safe for them to go outside anymore. You can't even go to your corner store without the fear of either getting shot or robbed right now. And this isn't all throughout the city, but that is the reality, right? Parents want to make sure their children are safe.
Yeah. Do you think a part of this has to do with the housing and the low employment, availability of jobs, availability of housing? Because I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm not just looking at the fact that somebody pull out a gun and shoot someone. There has to be some reasons behind it. And when you talked about how people are afraid to go outside, and the boldness, I just don't understand.
Well, you look at a few things, right? You look at that there's been historically divestment into our communities, right? There's been all this money and push to put into downtown Wilmington, make it safe, right? Make the riverfront safe. They cleaned up all the homelessness down there and pushed it everywhere else throughout the city. So you can't tell me it could not be cleaned up. They have shown that they have the capability and the willingness to do it when it comes to downtown, when it comes to the riverfront. When there was a shooting at the, 2nd and Market on Market Street, they found the shooter within hours.
I did see, yeah.
Hours. Hours.
Not good.
If a shooting happens over on Carter Street or happens on Reed Street, they take their time. It's a difference. The motivation isn't really there. Okay. The pressure isn't there from the top.
So you, other than saying they take their time, it's just that the priority is not to solve. That is what you're contending. And as we are really looking at this show constantly, and I'm looking at all of the stress. Someone came to me and they said, Pastor Curry, I don't want to vote for Biden. Let's just use it. We're not here politicking right now. And I said, why not? I said, look at the alternative. And the response that the person gave me troubled me. He said, well, when the alternative was there, he caused more problems for the other folks than when he said the other folks, I mean the people who got money. This is where I was talking to a person who didn't have many means. He said, but right now my community is worse off. I don't know the strength of that. I mean, if you can help me, it was just shocking.
See, one, the community is worse off, but it's a delayed reaction, right? Everyone's first term is usually cleaning up the person's term before you. When you pass bills, right, some of them don't go into effect right away. So like with Trump's tax bill, right, that didn't go into effect and it was delayed because of the pandemic as well, too. It didn't go into effect really until 2022. So therefore, you saw your tax returns look a lot smaller for a lot of people.
Right.
But that wasn't because of something Biden did. That was because of past policy that had passed under the previous president, but just didn't take effect until the other, right? When you look at some of these things, we were able to get stimulus checks during the pandemic, right? Yeah. That first round of stimulus checks. But a lot of that also went to big banks, to big companies that they've been forgiven on, and we're paying to repay that. That's how they wrote that bill. So you kind of have to understand the policy that's been put in place, who put it in place, and how long it will affect you for. So now we're still going to be feeling that burden at least until 2027, 2028 probably, regardless of who's in office from 2020. Now, hopefully what we hope to see is over the next few years, we see that start to scale back a little bit and other systems that help us come into play. One of the best things was the child tax credit that got passed. The $300 if you had a kid under 6, if you had a kid over 6, it was $250 each month. That helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Well, it depends on who you're really saying that to. The reason why I say that is because it hurt people who have small businesses like me who kind of need the workforce, and a lot of people kind of lived on that and said, you know what, I don't need to work, but it helped them. I'm not denoting the fact that it helped, whether or not it helped them, but it kind of hurt a little bit too, and I don't want to dissect what has happened to the place where we are agreeing that Biden did not do his job. I see that he has done a phenomenal job, but you talked about the tax credit. Now that is gone now.
It is.
So how do you reconcile with a person who is saying, look, I never had a real job. I just got and this happened for real. I just got a job and they got my social security number. And now all that back child support because I never had a job, it's going to kill me. How do you pull us out? You're activists. That's why we done kind of migrated away from our initial, but I'm just talking about the root of the problem. How do you help me to counsel, or how do you fight for that young brother who really saw the wickedness of his ways?
So I'll say this, it starts at the state level, especially in a state like Delaware, right?
Okay.
That has the power to change something like that. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because there is a bill that looks to address some of that issue, right? At least it's a great first step.
Okay.
And it's been introduced by a friend of this show, Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And again,
she's always introducing good bills.
Right?
You always, Sherry.
So again, what you need to do is look at if someone truly has not had a job, right? They should not be penalized for those past years. I know it's a struggle going on. Listen, I have a goddaughter and I help out every now and then, and I see how much things are and how expensive children are. That's why I don't want any right now.
Get them before you get too old. Go ahead.
But it's with inflation and everything, it is very expensive to raise a child. Don't get it wrong at all. But also, if someone does not have a job and they put in an honest effort to try to find a job and now they finally have one, that's when it should start.
Okay.
From that point on, from that point of employment, that's when the portion of it should be coming out to help give to their child. They should not be penalized for not being able to find a job.
It's to a place where they don't want to work. They want to stay illegal because this person or persons who I'm trying to, because I believe in second chances. I believe in third chances because that's what God did for me. So I believe that we need to do that for other people. And now it's like as soon as their social security number hit the system, all of this back stuff comes up. There is no forgiveness. And they go further in a ditch and in depression. And that's why I'm glad I didn't even know about that bill with Sherry. Maybe we bring her on to talk about that, because that is something that is very powerful.
Absolutely. And I think, that goes a long way to really getting to the root cause of what's caused as economic disparity, especially in our community, right? Even though it's almost the same rate between our white counterparts and black counterparts, overall, we have less wealth. Right? Which means the single mother raising or single parent raising their child, right, has less money in the bank to raise that child. The parent who's not in the child's day-to-day life, they have less money to give if they have a job as well, too. Now, I will say this. Some people do not want to work. That is very true. But the vast majority do, but they can't find jobs that are either they're putting different stipulations on them that we didn't have 10 years ago, right? The quality of work hasn't gotten better with these new stipulations, right? For some jobs, honestly, for most jobs, it's on the job training. You do not need a degree. You need the willingness. You don't need to be lazy. If you have the willingness to work and learn, you can do the vast majority of these jobs.
And that's so true. I just feel my heart is starting, especially during this Christmas season, and I'm seeing how people. I was sitting listening to a conversation. I was in the aisles of one department store, and I had Ashley with me, and we were doing some things, and I just happened to overhear a person scheming. They were shoplifting, and one of the things that they know the system. The person made a comment that they can't touch us, so let's just keep walking. When you walk through the door, just keep walking. And I'm sitting there saying, wow, what have we come to? And I'm not always, listen, it should not be a crime to be poor. It should not be a crime to want, but I'm not saying that I'm one of those liberal people to the place where it doesn't matter what wrong a person does, it's all right. No, I'm saying the system has to be re-looked at so that we can understand how the poor is being treated. People have to survive. It is our instinct to survive.
It is.
So whatever it takes to survive a lot of times, even some things that are not right, we do it because that's a part of our instinct, and that is to survive.
I agree with you. On Black Friday, I was at Kohl's. And
You see the barbecue.
they took a lot of stuff from Kohl's, right? That was at the end of the day as well too. And the workers, they just step outside to see if they could get the plate of whatever car they run to, right? And I think that's a policy that they have in place because they do have insurance on the stuff. They'll get the money back, the corporations, but also it is less of a liability to put your workers in harm's way, especially workers that do not get paid enough to try to tackle these people or try to stop them who may have weapons on them as well too.
Or we hire you and you just there I go. One more thing before we go to our break. My heart is going out even to this. There was an arrest on Monday, on Tuesday. On Tuesday in Newcastle County, where a 26-year-old guy was arrested he had possession of drugs, but it was linked to some of the overdose that is going on in our city, well, in the state, in the country. I'm watching the funeral. Before we do that, you know anything about that before I go into that?
Yeah, so a 26-year-old Isaiah Melton was arrested on Tuesday, November 28th, and he was charged with possession of a deadly weapon during the commission of a felony, and a number of other charges, including possession of a deadly weapon during the commission of a felony, manufacturing, developing, possession of, and with the intent to deliver controlled substances of Tier 3 quality, endangering the welfare of a child in possession of drug paraphernalia. He's being held on a $156,000 cash bail right now. He was busted with crack cocaine, 25 bags of heroin, and a loaded handgun. But this was in connection to a North Wilmington overdose that happened, I believe, in October, earlier this year. And they were able to track him down. Newcastle County Police were able to figure out who the dealer was. Yeah,
and for those of you who are listening to us today, the reason why I brought this to the show today is because I've been watching the funerals. I've been watching the paper. I've been watching the drugs that our young people, old people, because it's not been just young people. It's been old. It is so powerful that it is literally blowing up hearts. It's not the regular crack, even though when it came out, the crack was so addictive that people got addicted to it. Now it's addictive and it's explosive. It causes people to die. Friends, I've preached a few funerals. It is really bad. The person and even the young man, 26 years old, he's out there pushing it, but he didn't produce it. And I want to keep that clear because all too often we don't pay attention to where it's coming from, who's dumping it in the community. That gun, it was dumped in this community. And we really need to really talk to our legislators, our police. How do we help? Because too many people are dying, and it's affecting a certain population.
So we have the opium crisis. We have all different types of drugs right now being laced with fentanyl. We know about the corridor, right? We know that you can go up to Kensington and get drugs for as cheap as $3, and then they come down here and sell them for as high as $25, right? It's a great market for them. And that's why we're seeing it so relatively available, right? Because when you can go and buy in masses, right? Just up the road, we're one of the first stops.
Kids in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I mean, you see what's going on in Philadelphia, right? You see Zombie Row, they call it, right? Right by the Rite Aid. That is starting to happen here. You can drive, not downtown, but you can drive in different parts of the city, West Center City, West Side, East Side, and you see people slumped over. They look frozen almost. And they're taking these drugs and putting these drugs into their body. And people who have been doing drugs for years, this new stuff that's out on the street is too potent for them. That's the sad part, right? And I think we really need to have better collaboration, not only with city, county, and state police, but also with our friends over in Pennsylvania to try to stop this trafficking. And again, I guess that would be a federal since it's interstate, but this is the issue that we are dealing with right now, and it's so sad. It is so sad.
Yeah, I remember the song, and this is Christmas season, and I would want more tis the season things to be happening, but the old song that says, "If it ain't one thing, it's another." It's like what else can come to make the poor community poor, to deprive this community to the level that is depriving. I just don't know what to say, but those two items were on my heart, and I wanted to just bring it to the community. And I also wanted to make sure that the community is well aware of the fact that we have to speak up. We have to find a way to help each other. And I'm not interested in saying that you need to be a tattletale and things of that nature, but we got to realize we got to live for generations to come. And all too often we know who's doing some of the things that are happening. We won't say nothing to them, and neither will we say nothing to the authorities. We have to make up our mind. Something has to break. If you want the police to be better, let's help them so that we can say we did all we can. I know there's a fear. I understand the fear that, they're going to find out you're the one who leaked this or did that. But if you know the person, I know back in the day, I remember the old heads. I mean, they would say, boy, you can't they can be drunk as a skunk, but tell you better make sure you're in school and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's a different generation now. But I hope that you all will begin to just figure out, how do we hold our legislators accountable? How do we hold our governors and mayors, city council people, county council people accountable, not just there to collect a check or not just there to satisfy certain people's agendas, but really to hold them accountable? We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come right back. We'll be right back.
Tune in at 8 a.m. every Sunday for our worship services. Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church. We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
Hello, my name is Eugene Young. I'm incredibly thankful to be here. I am a candidate for U.S. Congress, and I believe when it comes to Congress, it comes to service. One of my favorite lines about service is you can't lead without loving, you can't save without service. So what's the depth of your love, or what's the quality of your service? So this aspect of love and service is what brings me here before you today, and wanting to take that and extend that into Congress as we move forward. I look at my last 20 years of serving the community, and I look forward to having another 20 and being able to find more ways to even better serve the community, which has given me so much. So please feel free to join us at eugeneyoung.com. That's EUGENEYOUNG.com. That's eugeneyoung.com. If you're interested in volunteering or donating, it could be $5 a month, it could be $100 a month, it could just be a standard donation of $10. We appreciate it all. Thank you so very much, and wishing you a wonderful, beautiful day.
And we're back. Well, Brother Coby, we had a nice first segment, but let's find out what's going on in the political and the Coby world.
Yeah, so first I want to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is voting rights.
Yeah.
And it just seems constantly over and over and over again, there's attacks to the Voting Rights Act. And there has been another one and a very devastating blow to it recently that came out of the 8th Appellate Circuit, which recently stated that only the federal government can bring suits of discrimination based on racial redistricting when it comes to the Voting Rights Act. This is a blow to the NAACP. This is a blow to Black Voters Matter and every other organization, ACLU, that have brought lawsuits recently. And I've talked about a few of them: Alabama, South Carolina, New York, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, who have brought lawsuits just as recent as this year to try to fix the discrimination that we see in gerrymandering when it comes to both congressional maps redrawing in state Senate and state House, right? And the sad thing is, we've seen states their maps get overturned. Right. We just saw it in Alabama where they have to create a second African-American based district, right? So that and both of them have to be over 50%. They've done that now, right? So that it doesn't dilute the power of the Black vote down there. We've seen lawsuits win like that in Pennsylvania that changed in 2017. We saw North Carolina change in 2018, right? This is going to be an ongoing fight. And if the Supreme Court doesn't step in here, this may change how we do things here in America when it comes to voting rights and comes to redrawing our maps. But then also, this would pretty much gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, now stop there for a minute, just for those people who are following us, especially our seniors. So you're saying you're concerned that the 8th Appellate Court is saying only the federal government.
Correct.
Is there something before the 8th Appellate Court where civil rights groups may have had a lawsuit and they're saying we're not going to hear this, but only the federal government, so that they can understand where we are?
Yeah, so there was a lawsuit in Arkansas, which is in that district, about the fact that the only 11% majority of the districts were African American, where the state population is 16%. So when they were drawing these districts, and it was the state Senate and state House districts, they wanted it to be closer to what the actual demographic of the state is. That's how it's supposed to be under the Voting Rights Act. They won that case. The state of Arkansas pushed back and took it to the federal level. And it was at the federal level, the 8th Circuit, that's where they made this ruling, saying that only the federal government, not an individual or organization, may bring a racial discrimination lawsuit.
That doesn't make sense.
To change redistricting.
Well, first of all, it doesn't make sense, because that's the only people who always bring them is those organizations like the NAACP and things of that nature. But now, since we have a Democratic, because that's normally where you can get things done for discrimination, is there any way that we can say, well, like I said, we can ask the current administration to file the lawsuit, but then when you get a Republican group in there, it's going to become a major problem.
Right. So it's solely based on who has the White House at that
And I don't think that's fair.
Correct.
And you feeling that the Supreme Court, which is super conservative, is going to come in and help.
The Supreme Court is extremely conservative, but I will say on some cases, they have been good. So they set the precedent in ruling in favor of an organization when they ruled in the favor of the NAACP in Alabama. They have set the precedent when they ruled in the favor of the NAACP in Louisiana. That they have sided in this current makeup, right? These current judges these current 9 have just voted on that. So there is hope, but Chief Justice Roberts has used his position to help gut other parts of the Voting Rights Act.
Really?
So I have no true faith in him or any other of those justices on that court.
Especially your cousin Clarence.
That ain't my cousin. He ain't invited to the cookout.
All right.
But that is going to be something that we are going to follow very closely. and, figure out what is truly going on with this case. And hopefully we do see an outcome that favors the Black community and minority communities as well, too. Dr. King fought very hard for this, but it has benefited not only the African-American community, but the Latino community, and so many others as well, too. Next, I want to talk about the EPA. So Michael Regan, who was head of the environmental agency down in North Carolina under Governor Roy Cooper, who's now our EPA for the nation, has been fighting tooth and nail to create different programs that give back to the community when it comes to addressing environmental issues. So they are now announcing that they are setting up a new grant program, not a loan program, a grant program that helps disadvantaged and overburdened communities and to try to transition them into healthy, resilient, and thriving communities for the current and future generations. They are allocating $2 billion to groups, to organizations, to groups, to local governments, to be able to start applying at the end of this year for that money. The first round of money will be going out hopefully by like March or April once they have all the applications in. I'm not for sure the deadline, but as soon as the portal opens, I will let y'all know. Again, if you're in an area that's been disproportionately impacted by climate change, South Bridge would fall into that area. Route 9 corridor would fall into that area. The flood zones. If you're in the area where there's been heavy industry, right? So they didn't pit Crota up there in Hocassin or Greenville. They put it on the Route 9 corridor where a lot of African-American communities live. Communities like that have the ability to go out and apply for this money and gain access to this federal funding. And again, there are some steps that you need to take if you are a nonprofit group. You need to have a SAMS.gov number, right? So that you can receive those federal funds. The application is usually very in-depth, right? You do not have to do it on your own. If you have questions or don't understand something in the application process, we have people who can help, right? That's what our federal delegation, their offices help with that. I know one thing, shout out to our Congresswoman's office, Lisa Blunt Rochester's office. I call them all the time. Iris is one of the best in the game that really helps guides a lot of people through this process. So again, we have help here. If you are interested, definitely look into it. And when the portal is open, I will be talking about that as well too.
Question for you. You're absolutely correct with, you say when you call Lisa Blunt Rochester's office, you get the help that you need. Will her staff be able to follow her, or will you have to stay in that office? Because I sometimes on the Senate level, I don't always get the response that I get when I call like her office. Yeah,
I mean, so one, of course, all the positions will be open once she becomes a senator, and they can all apply. They'll probably have first dibs.
Okay.
Because she's worked with them for so long.
All right.
But she will also be able to expand how many staffers she has. So there will be new faces no matter what. She'll have a lot bigger of a budget that she can use for both her DC office, her state offices, and then also whether she wants to be more conscription service based or policy based as well too.
Understood.
Next, I want to talk about something that happened, and a young man who I met here maybe almost a month ago. Very nice young man, great organizer. We had a very in-depth conversation about what's happening in Palestine currently right now. He was up in Vermont, in Burlington, Vermont, and him and two of his friends were shot by a 48-year-old white supremacist. I don't care what anyone says. I absolutely disagree with how the media, every time there is a white shooter with something, oh, he's a lone wolf, oh, he had mental illness. But when it's a black person, Hispanic person, Middle Eastern person, they're a terrorist, there's a thug, and all this other thing. He is a white supremacist, and he saw them wearing their traditional Palestinian robes and mercifully shot them, leaving two of them in the hospital in critical condition. One of the others, Keenan, he is healing, but he's not in critical condition like the other two. He confronted them, shot them while they were up there visiting a friend during a Thanksgiving holiday, a time where we're supposed to spend with our friends and family. Right. Again, because of the rhetoric that he's hearing, he believes that all Palestinians are terrorists or Hamas, which is rhetoric that has been perpetuated by elected officials, not only across this country, but right here in Delaware, because of their lack of a knowledge of what's truly going on, and it has caused harm to many. We have seen Islamophobia rise. We've seen anti-Semitism rise as well too. You have to be very careful with your words, because your words can cause for things like this to happen.
Yes.
The 48-year-old guy, he was arrested, but again, this isn't the first incident. This isn't going to be the last incident. And unfortunately, relations when it comes to hate crimes based on religion right now is at an all-time high.
Yeah, I know it has to kind of bother you when you know the person.
Yes.
It's different when you are reading about it, but I'm agreeing with you on this one. We always find a soft way of justifying why it's done, especially with this Caucasian gentleman who just attacked these young people for what? Because they were Palestinian. I think that this is really a sad day in America. We thought although the 60s were really horrible, but it's now professionally being done and covered.
Yes.
I'm gonna leave it there.
Yes. So next, I want to talk about a few things. We have 2024 is right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
But before we get there, we have a special election in Georgetown, Delaware, for the seat, the 37th district, which is a seat that Ruth Briggs King recently resigned from at the end of her, just recently, which triggered this special election. One of the things I don't like about it is it's going to be held on Thursday, December 21st, just a few days before Christmas. So I want to make sure that I use all my platforms just to inform people that there is a special election coming up. There has been 2 candidates nominated for the position. One is Democrat Jane Hovington, who I've worked with personally, who I consider a mentor and a friend. She is the state treasurer for the NAACP, as well as the Sussex Democratic Party chair down there. She was the first African-American, period, to serve on the Georgetown City Council, and she has served in a bunch of other public official roles down there. She is up against Valerie Jones Gluntner. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. She is the Republican running down there. She's a retired nurse. So it's going to be a very good battle between those two. It is a Republican district. The Republicans do have a small advantage in registration numbers as well too. And then again, but when you see winter special elections, you always see lower turnout. When you see winter special elections just a few days before Christmas and other major holidays going on during that time as well too, turnout probably won't be as high. So again, it's all about awareness and letting your friends and family know who live down that area. It includes Millsboro, parts of Millsboro, all of Georgetown area down in Sussex.
I got a question for you, since you're in the political section. I haven't seen anything about the lieutenant governor. Is she back in the race or is she not? So
she never dropped out the race. She had just suspended her fundraising portion of it. But from my understanding, she is still fundraising now. She has a new kitchen cabinet of advisors, as well as new campaign staff as well too. So there has been an audit. The audit has been completed, but it has not been released to the public yet. So obviously, do you get a chance to see the audit? Meaning, if it was an audit on you, do you get to see it before the public gets to see it? Yes. So she must feel confident that there's nothing that she needs to worry about. Correct. So her team's so it's like if I go to you to do an audit, you would report it back to me. So her team's seen it, she's seen it. She just hasn't released it to the public.
Okay, and I think so right now we're just going to leave it there. I just wanted to ask as an update because I know some people were asking me, was there any update on the lieutenant governor's not race but person to become governor? Okay, very good.
And then some other people who have announced. Austin has announced in District 33, which is in Kent. Governor Carney has filed a committee to run for mayor of Wilmington. And the last one is former Wilmington City Council 7th District Councilman has Bob Williams, as some people knew, he's a former cop, has filed to run for Newcastle County president.
City council president. County council.
County council president.
Okay.
Which is an at-large position. It's the only at-large position on the county council. He stepped down from Wilmington City Council when he moved to Newark so that they could send their children to Newark Charter. So he is stepping back
to Howard.
He is stepping back into the realm. I have no clue.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
This is with Newark Charter. I believe they still have a 5-mile radius. That's how they kept a lot of black people out of school as well too. That's why
I'm always saying things to get you started, but that's absolutely it is not a charter school because they're not supposed to do some of the things that it does. But it's always they want to be the next Wilmington charter, but it is what it is.
Lastly, I want to talk since 2024 is right around the corner, and. Unfortunately, the mayor has decided not to run. And he thinks...
You said unfortunate?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because now he thinks he can show his true colors.
Whoa.
Or his lack of love for colored people. By making statements decrying that black people speaking out against something. Black people engaging in their civic duty. Black people asking their city council to represent them and not just follow the lead of a mayor that did not win the entire city, that they're a mob.
A who?
A mob.
Who said this?
This is the mayor of the city of Wilmington, the 12th blackest city in the nation, thinks that black people gathering and speaking out is a mob.
Unbelievable.
But this isn't anything new because in 2020, when we peacefully gathered for Black lives, they called us a mob. They called us out-of-state agitators. They said the city was going to be burnt down. They sent out messages. John Rago and David Karras from the police department sent out messages to businesses saying protect yourself and board up. Even businesses that aren't even the city of Wilmington, like the Enterprise up on Philadelphia Pike. You had Bacini and them board up their buildings down here because they thought they were going to be burnt down and destroyed. But when black people gathered in love, they put snipers on us. They put snipers on our congresswoman. That's the type of mayor that Pazicki has always been. And now that he's not running, he can finally show his true colors.
Wow.
When someone disagrees and said, hey, you said you were going to do this for my community, talking about West Center City, you made all these promises, I haven't seen anything. That person's a liar, but they live there. They would know if you built something like you said you was.
Let's get a little context, Coby, because I it's hard.
Yes,
First, was there a statement out of the mayor's mouth, or was there a press statement?
This was a press release that he signed off on, sent out on his page, on the city's page, and to a bunch of media outlets.
And he called
black people a mob.
And the reason why you said he called black people a mob is because they came to the city council to say, council people, please do not get rid of the residency restriction.
And you know what? 8 council people listened. 8. Okay. And I talked about it on the last show. 8 people listened and they voted with the city residents. Over 150 people came and spoke and gave public comments, something they have not seen under this session of city council or in this session of the mayor's administration. 150 people came and gave public comment. The room was packed every time that they had a council meeting. The people Thousands of emails, phone calls, text messages were sent throughout this city of Wilmington. People did not want to see it go, and because the people disagreed with the mayor, they're considered a mob. This is their civic duty. Right. You are supposed to have public comment. You're supposed to listen to the people who put y'all in office. But this mayor thinks that he's a dictator. He sounds like Donald Trump listening to people, not wanting to listen to people and disagree with them. So he decides to call them names.
So, Coby, you're saying because, first, are we in a democracy?
Under this mayor, he doesn't think so, but yes.
Because I think people have a right to say, look, city council persons, if you're going to represent me, represent my viewpoint.
Correct.
And if my viewpoint is different from an administration viewpoint, what is wrong with that?
Well, I also want to point out that he said that, now that the state changed the law, that he had the power not to enforce residency anymore. If that's true and, the city council just passed another law, but you have the power not to enforce it, don't enforce it and get sued. Get sued. That's the thing. You have a bunch of lawsuits. You've caused a bunch of lawsuits for the city of Wilmington because of your negligence and the negligence of your staff up there. Mm. But, he has decided that he wants to be a dictator these last few months he's in office. Mm. And that's how he's going to rule.
I think someone should get in touch with Vilder and with the governor and say to him, don't make it hard for me. And I'm saying it that way for reasons. Mm-hmm. Because now you made a comment, I didn't even think of it that way. He has nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. And this is why a lot of people don't want Trump to get back in, because he would then have nothing to lose.
Right.
If you're saying to me that all the people who are speaking with Latino and Black folks, they are now considered a mob. Mm-hmm. Was there fights breaking out?
Nope.
Did they have to pull out the pepper spray and spray everybody?
Nope.
Did the people swamp the city council chambers and turn over tables and things?
Nope. They spoke out.
So speaking out is a part of what I have a right to do.
Not if you live in the city of Wilmington under Mayor Pizzacki.
Look, the former 45, he's saying, don't take away is the Second Amendment right?
First,
second. No, we've been arguing the Second Amendment so much. I'm thinking about guns now. But isn't it the First Amendment right to be able to speak out and say I don't agree with something? Mm-hmm. So you're saying I'm a mob person, or I'm a part of a mob because I'm simply saying I don't want a certain policy? How do y'all take this? How do you all support this? People are saying, hey, let's not make this a color thing. What else can we make it? Mm-hmm. This is unbelievable. And I'm sitting there saying, it's infuriating me.
It's funny. I'm going to read a line from
please
the press release. Nowhere, sadly, some speakers ingested the issue of race into the discussion, arguing Black employees would be at a disadvantage. Nowhere during the mob control meetings was there recognition of the increased marketing and outreach efforts by the city human resources department to recruit city residents for local government. I haven't seen a poster. I haven't seen a board anywhere, but y'all spent $200,000 on It's Time Wilmington that goes out to everywhere but the city of Wilmington, really, to recruit people to move into the city, to move into these luxury apartments that you're building. But he wants to talk about that, so let's talk about that, right? Well, if you truly wanted to invest in the city of Wilmington and get in them jobs, those jobs that you talked about in this press release, the water treatment place, that's not even on the website to apply for that job. It hasn't been for at least 6 months now. The attorney jobs, yes, that has been on there, but let's also talk about it, how you're paying them almost $50,000 less than they could make in other municipalities throughout. So no, it's not the fact that you have to move into the city of Wilmington in a housing market that is not good, that you help create, that you help raise the rent everywhere in this city. It's the fact that you don't want to pay people. You made rent too high in the city of Wilmington. It's unaffordable to live here. And then you want to bring outside people to make decisions on raising our prices, raising our taxes continuously. We've raised taxes 53%, water and sewer, under your administration. And you're talking about, oh, now it's too expensive to live here. You did that.
Gentrification. You ever heard that word?
Absolutely.
But I guess because we have a Black personnel, human resource person, I guess that's to speak that is not no racial motivated anything, I imagine.
That doesn't stop anything.
Because you said you have not seen certain things listed, right?
Absolutely.
He said in his press conference, I mean his press statement that y'all failed to talk about all of his advertisement. Where is the advertisement?
But I also want to add one thing, because he mentioned the water treatment, right?
Okay.
Well, our water treatment plant used to be a union job.
Okay.
City job, which means you would be hired by our HR department and then you would work as a city employee. But he wants to perpetuate lies. Let's talk about how the city hired Jacobs and OMI to operate our water treatment plant.
So it's
that
not union
means
anymore.
it's a third-party operator, which means they're responsible for hiring, not the city of Wilmington. So therefore, don't perpetuate these lies. Because they are a third-party operator, they don't have to follow the residency rule. So they could be hiring anyone they wanted. So this had nothing to do with that bill. So again, your racism is showing.
Wow. Now, you sure Dennis didn't hire that company?
No, it was the mayor.
I have to ask these questions. For those of you who's like, well, what are you asking that question for? Because I got to ask it.
August 2020. It was August of 2020.
Right. I know the answers. I'm asking the questions because it's important for people to see and for people to be outraged that this is happening right in front under your face. This is unbelievable. And I'm stuck on the mob. Okay, I'm stuck on the mob. Why do you use these descriptors? Why do you use these adjectives to describe people who speak out when they have a First Amendment right to do so? So that means if I don't agree with something that happens at city council or something that happens in the mayor's office, I need to keep my mouth shut. Because if I don't keep my mouth shut, then I'm an angry black man. Is that what it was saying?
Absolutely. And because they went this way, right, the city was supposed to be saving $1 million in just the first year alone of hiring them. It has now been 3 years. I want to see the report. I want to see the report.
What report?
Exactly. Wilmington used its own workforce until the mid-90s. So again, this isn't anything new. But you are not hiring these people. It's a third-party operator. Stop pitting out these lies.
But you know what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna make somebody mad, but I don't care. I want the union to be able to explain to me why would they support any candidates who are not union friendly. That is an example that you're taking the union jobs. Why do people support people off of grudges, off of how they can milk their own pockets? That is concerning to me. And as we get into this 2024 season, when it's really going to heat up starting in January, February, March, we're going to make sure we're doing our due diligence.
Yes.
Because you just kind of gave me a bombshell just now. I mean, you telling me that we're called a mob?
We're called a mob.
And we would have resulted to name calling because we disagree? Unacceptable and will not be tolerated. My project was stopped. I told you all about it. They literally stopped my project because they can do that. When you're the mayor, when you're the power to bees and got the connections. But now we're talking about a group of people, for those of you who are watching us, a group of people who said, you know what, enough is enough. We're not going to let all of our jobs leave the city. You got to live here. In order for you to have a heart, or in order for you to have empathy, not sympathy, but empathy, you got to be a part of a community. So we want to keep the residency here. What happens? You're called a mob. That does look familiar. I don't know what to say, Brother Coby, other than this is just disgraceful, distasteful, and unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And I hope and trust that those of you who watch us, and people know our show is being watched strongly. They know that we are on beyond 28. This has to stop. It's a shame I didn't see the press conference because some things I don't see, and that's why I'm depending on y'all to be able to do it. I'm glad you were able to read certain statements from it, but for the people who did their civic duty to be called a mob because we disagree, unacceptable.
I know.
But this is the way they're viewed.
Yep.
This is the way you're viewed. You're agitator when you're trying to be heard. Unacceptable and cannot be tolerated. I don't know, Coby.
So we have a lot of work ahead of us. A lot of work.
And I hope that the governor give a call to the mayor's office. If he's running for mayor, I hope, because it's becoming a race thing. And I think we got to pay attention to that. And if we don't, it's going to create problems. I think Velda needs to give a call in to say, hey, this was inappropriate. You know, and I'm not going to be disrespectful to the governor or to Mrs. Potter, but at some point, those who are running gotta, what they call it, when you gotta dishonor, you gotta say, you gotta go against it. I hear a lot on CNN when people say if you're either for it or you need to denounce it. And it needs to be, something needs to be said on this by both parties. So, and when I say both parties, I mean both candidates. Because if not, then it means you're agreeing with it, because silence is sanctioning.
Yes.
So I'm gonna send a note to both offices saying, look, read the press conference. Do you or do you disagree with it? And if you don't agree with it, I want to hear something done in public. If you do, if you don't want to say nothing, then I'm gonna say you're gonna agree with it, because I think it's just really sad. It's sad and it's wrong. And for those of you who don't understand, this is why our city is creating the problems that it has, and we're going with this violence at another level, is because nobody is really speaking up. And when people decide to speak up, they call it a mob. Unacceptable. And it should not be tolerated under any circumstances.
I agree with
you. You done got me wild up. Now it's time. I'm glad we're at the end of the show, because I just can't take it. This is just unacceptable. And the people who are around this mayor need to really start opening up your mouth and speaking up and saying, look, a certain thing should not. That was written, and because it was written, that means thought was put into it. You cannot sit and think about something, write something, and then put it out and say, oh, that was a slip. No. That should have been better worded. To call them a mob was unacceptable. And I do invite Mr. Mayor to come to this show. I invite you to come and explain it. If we're lying now, if we're interpreting the statement wrong, it's time for you to send your people if you don't want to come. I know we're not good enough, but if you want to send somebody, I'm willing to receive them and be very respectful to hear their side of the story. That is unacceptable. And you done gave me a bombshell. Now I'm all upset. Pray for me so I can preach the word of God on Sunday. I will. Anything else you have for me today?
That's all I have for you today.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
New guests, new conversations, new stories every Sunday at 11 a.m. Grab your cup of coffee and tune in with Dr. Curry for our weekly episodes of Coffee with Curry.
Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube every Sunday by typing E-Zion Fair Baptist Church.
Oh my God, help me today. Which means every storm is a school. Every trial is a teacher. Every experience is an education. And every difficulty is development.
We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
Summer, that time when we trade routine for a few days of sunshine, water, and laughter. When simple things transform into lifelong memories. It's that time when we reconnect, get a little closer, and realize moments like this are too few. And we wish every day could be summer. Begin your journey at visitdelaware.com.
And we're back. Well, that's all our show for today. We're sorry that we ran out of time. There's some other things we wanted to discuss, but please tune in next week. We're going to continue to discuss the various things that are going on. I do extend an invitation to the mayor for the city of Wilmington, Mr. Brzezicki. We extend an invitation to you to come and please explain and help us to understand it from the African-American community, your heart. Let us hear from you. If you feel that this has been certainly given to you wrong and you feel that we have misrepresented you based on me reading some of the press release and Coby having some comments on that, then I open up the door because I believe in reconciliation. If not, I understand. If you're too busy, we understand. But the reality of it is we're not going to overcome or not cover things that we see. And the word mob should have never been a part of the press conference. Anything else from you today, Brother Coby?
I'll just say at the time of this filming, there is no position on there that he was talking about with the water treatment. So again, that's all I have to say. They
still is not on there?
It's still not as on there. They may put it on there or may change one of the titles around, whatever. But again, come on the show, talk to us. But that's all I got.
Well, look, until the next time we get together, God bless you.
Take care, y'all.